clearly you feel that you need a new jail. Many people agree with you. Some of the debate revolves around how that should be paid for, and
Sure.
one of the things I'm hearing is people asking why does this require a millage? That might be a question better addressed to the county, but what's your take on it?
Sure. And it may be, but I'll give you what I've done. So I've talked with our state legislators. I've talked with many people in state government. I tried to get state monies for this and was unsuccessful. I've talked with our federal legislators. I tried to get money secured federally to do this and was unsuccessful. One of the things that I thought was most promising and only to be turned away later on was USDA had a rural loan availability or application that would allow me to get an interest-free loan. So right now, one of the issues that we're trying to make sure that folks understand is why are we collecting $100+ million to pay a $54 million jail? Well, because a portion of that is paying a bond, right? So it's just like your mortgage. You're paying on your mortgage, you're paying that interest rate. And so that's a significant portion of it when it all comes down. And so paying that takes a lot out of us, and caused us to have this higher millage. Well, this USDA loan that I was looking into was interest free, but it turns out that we are too heavily populated to qualify for that loan. So I was disappointed in that. I thought that would really help us. And I thought that was the most promising thing that we had going on. Some of the other things that I had looked into required us to match the amount of money coming in, and of course we can't match the money because we don't have the money. So that just didn't work out for us.
Don't you feel that this is a problem that was kind of dropped in your lap though? I can't imagine this jail was in much better shape in 2020.
No.
So you came in, you saw what's going on here, and you went to the county, or did the county itself identify the need?
Sure, I'll tell you how that happened. And you're right. This didn't happen overnight, for sure. And so what happened with me was when I came in as the sheriff, the easiest way to describe it is almost like it's like drinking from a fire hose in the beginning. You have a lot coming at you, and you're just taking it a little bit, and you're just trying to make sure everything is okay. And so that's how it happens in the first 90, 120 days. And so we're making sure everything is taken care of, and we're getting our feet underneath us as a staff. And I thought we did a really good job of it. And then it was brought to my attention by a county administrator that, hey, there's a millage that is coming off the books. And that millage actually pays for your operation costs over on Chanter Road. And this is something that I was not aware of. We're probably going to need to run some sort of a renewal in order to continue operation costs for Chanter Road, because that's going to be $1 million+ issue later on down the road. So I was asked to look into it a little bit, make a determination as to how much money we would need operationally, and then we would seek a millage on that. And the millage that was expiring was a $500,000, and that the operation costs wouldn't encompass a $500,000 because of the fact that we were not paying a bond and the interest rate on a bond, because that had been paid off. So I was looking into that, and as I was doing that, I was consulting with my staff, and I had a lieutenant that had been here for quite some time, and I began to speak with him about it. And it occurred to me that when you walk into this place, you could see that there's some things that aren't necessarily pretty and might need to be repaired to make it look a little bit more professional. Aesthetically, we needed to step it up. So as I was talking to my lieutenant, I said to him, let's go through the building and make a determination as to what we can do to make it, to fix it, to make it better. And his response to me was, I'm not sure we can. And we're about 4 months in, 5 months in, 6 months in, maybe. That's when I said, let's they take me around, show me what you're talking about. And that's when I got my first tour, very similar to the tour you just had, about all the nooks and crannies and all the little things. And I'd come in and out of this place, 25 plus years as a police officer, and didn't know all of the stuff that was really going on behind the scenes. And I was amazed that, one, they were able to operate like this, and two, that we hadn't had some major catastrophe here. And since that time, I have been nervous. It is my responsibility to make sure that my employees are safe, and it's my responsibility to make sure that these inmates are safe. I have custody of them, and that's a term of art in terms of the law. It's no different than the custody that you may have of your child, right? I'm responsible for their health, safety, and welfare. And with this facility, it concerns me. And so that's when I had a meeting with Mr. Overton, county administrator, explained to him the circumstances here. We talked a little bit more with the chairman of the county commission, and then I brought it to light.
Did it strike you that they had been unaware?
I think they kind of knew that this was an old building and things were dilapidated and run down. But yeah, I don't think that they were completely aware. I don't. A lot of those fellas had been on there at that time for a really long time. There have been a few that had been on there for a while, but not everybody had. And so I wanted to make them aware. And one of the things that I like to make sure that I emphasize here is, because I think it's unprofessional for me to say my predecessor or the predecessor before my predecessor failed in these regards. I think they did what they needed to do to get along. I think I'll leave it up to the public to cast their judgment as to whether or not that was right or wrong. For me, I look at it like this. Typically a jail lasts 30, 35 years before a major renovation or a new jail is built. We've been able to do that here for 70. And as a result of that, you can say those guys didn't do it right, but you could also say we applaud you for doing it for such a long time and doing a good job. And they did do a lot of stuff. Chanter Road was built. There was an addition on here. So there's a lot of things that were going on and going in the right direction. And so I don't necessarily think that they just completely dropped the ball. It's probably just time. It's just time. I think that's the best way to look at it. I think it's probably the easiest way for me to kind of wrap my brain around it as well.
So in 2022, a millage was attempted that included monies for improvements, including new construction, and that millage, as we know, was voted down. Now the millage is again on the ballot. Are you confident that you have a better shot this time?
Boy, I hope so. I know we have put all of our efforts into it to make sure that folks are aware of the situation that we have here. I certainly think we have a better shot than we did in 2022, just because of the fact that, when we were getting this all around and I was informing people and explaining to them the need and everything, it just took a long time. It's nobody's fault, but it took a long time before County Commission was able to get it approved. And we did it like the last day before the cutoff where it could be placed on the ballot. So we had just a really short window to educate people back then as to the need. And frankly, we didn't do it. And that's why I give myself the grade of a B, because, we needed to be able to do something better there. And I should have been able to do that. That totally falls on me. And because we didn't do that, the millage failed. So this time around, we've taken a lot more effort into educating the public, and we've been very methodical in how we're doing it. And I think that through that, we've certainly given it a much better chance, but I just don't know. I wish I did.
Right, and obviously you're operating within the confines of Michigan law, which prohibits you from advocating for the millage.
That's correct.
And you've obtained some funding from the county commission, specifically 38,000 was the figure I saw back in March when you went to them and asked them if you could hire
Yes.
a professional firm to help with the communications.
Yes.
How has that been going?
That's been going very well. And I want to make sure that, total disclosure here, $38,000 is correct. In addition to that, another $21,000 was provided for mailing, an educational mailer. So the total on that, and $59,000 and some change, if my math is right. So that's that. Yes, that educational campaign has been something that I think has been really good. I've been very pleased with the campaign as it's been moving through the various stages. So we've gotten a lot of different information on ways to address issues, specifically for folks to understand the problem, because we're not marketers. I'm a police officer, and I'm a professional police officer. That's what I've been my whole life, with the exception of a couple of years as an attorney, and marketing is a completely different thing. And these folks have really helped us through all of that process and doing things that we haven't even thought of. And the different ways of getting the message out there so that people understand. And there'll be additional things that are going to occur right up to Election Day as well, to make sure that people understand the reason why we're asking for this, and not advocating for it or against it. Just, this is the reason why, and I think that's important.
Okay. Have the full 38 plus 21,000 been spent or
No.
committed?
Committed, yes. Spent, no.
But will be spent by then.
It will, yes, sir.
Okay. I want to dig in just a little bit into that because there were some figures in there that raised some eyebrows. So
Okay.
there was a $21,000 consulting line in there for a retainer for the company Media Resources Group. What does that pay for exactly?
So, and it probably won't come out to $21,000 in the end, just because of the fact that that was for a time frame that was quoted during the RFP process that we went through.
So a 7-month period, 3,000 per month, 20 hours per month.
Right. So you're going to probably get a month or two off from that in terms of
Your start date was later. Maybe.
It was a little bit later. I think it was like February, and then we ended up doing it like mid-March or something like that. So,
Okay.
So that'll be a little bit different.
But it's basically a $3,000 per month retainer for 20 hours of some sort of work.
Correct. And so what that did for us is it provided us with a lot of talking points that because I've been to countless meetings. I can't even begin to tell you how many. I know last time that I ran this, I was keeping track of it. This time I haven't done such a good job, but last time I did about 180 plus presentations. I'm sure I'm there this time as well. And during the course of these presentations, we're talking to different groups, and it provides us with information on how to reach those groups, explain to them what's important to them, so that they understand what the circumstances are and the reasons why. So that is part of it. And in addition to that, we meet with.
But that's your time. That's not their time.
No, they're providing us with the talking points in the different groups, advising us the different groups that we need to speak with to make sure that we're getting across the spectrum.
Okay, so that's the 20 hours of consulting per
Yes,
month.
there's that. Plus, we meet with them twice a month, sometimes more. It's usually a couple of hours that we meet with them, and we discuss, where we need to go, what we're going to do next, how the plan is moving forward, and different things of that nature, which is critically important as well. So that's what goes into a lot of that, and it's been very helpful for me, at least, very eye-opening in a lot of regards. A lot of things that I didn't do the time before that I think I've done this time, and I'm hopeful will pay off.
Yeah, well, hopefully the communications consulting is worth it, because the amount per hour comes out to $150 per hour, which raises some eyebrows, especially in lean times such as these. That kind of funding is being committed.
I mean, I get that, and I totally understand that. But That's actually not a tremendous amount of money for professional services. I know as an attorney, I charge more than that per hour as an attorney. And so, and of course, I'm not comparing the two, but it's important to understand the differentiation and that these are professional services.
Other than the consulting, there were line items for radio ads and for yard signs. In
Yes.
that, were those spent on those items?
No. So a couple of things have happened. During the course of this, there's been a lot of different things that it's a moving target, trying to figure out, how many absentee ballots there's going to be. So there was a belief that there was, and I don't remember the numbers, there's going to be this many absentee ballots. Well, it turns out that there was several thousand more absentee ballots, which increases mailing costs. So we would take from one pot and put into another.
So you shifted some of the lines.
So we did, and so yard signs wasn't a priority, so we didn't do that.
Plus, you have the separate committee that is
there's
funding some.
Yeah, there's a
pro-millage,
separate committee
but
that's involved in that. Yeah, it's
offsite.
Yep, exactly. And so it wasn't necessary for us to utilize that. So we used that for another pot. So that's kind of how we've done it all. And then in addition to that, radio ads. There will be some radio ads in the near future. I would anticipate probably within the next week or so, there will be radio ads that are going out. I think that's critically important. But texting was another one. And that wasn't in the original quote. It was listed in the original quote
without an amount.
Without an amount. And it was one of those things where, make a determination later on if texting was something that would be appropriate, for this demographic, for our area. And we needed, it was kind of a sliding scale to make a determination later on. And they're using their metrics however they do to say, yeah, okay, it is or it isn't. So they come back and said, yeah, I think we need to focus a little bit more on the texting area. Mm-hmm. So we'll move monies around from those areas right there, still keeping it within the budget, and then just utilize different ways of making sure that the message gets out.
Okay, these types of campaigns always, I think, make people wonder, how far up to that line of pro-millage advocacy can you go without crossing over it? But one of the other questions that occurs, and perhaps if you were to take yourself out of the campaign as a candidate and just look at it from the side, is that does this funding not give you a leg up in terms of publicity around your own person and your own political campaign for the position of sheriff?
Well, I am the sheriff, I guess. I'm into this 110%. I suppose there's two ways of looking at that, right? You don't like the millage, you don't want to vote for it, you don't like the sheriff. It cuts both ways. I guess, does it give me a leg up? I suppose it could give me a leg up. In certain circumstances, it also could give me a leg down. In certain circumstances, if people don't like it, don't agree with me, don't think it's right, they're going to go, that's the guy that wants it, and therefore I'm voting against him. So I at the end of the day, I think it's a zero sum. Yeah, I mean, the reality of it is, I am the sheriff, and the millage is something that I believe in, and I've gone out on a limb, frankly, to do that. And I don't necessarily think that it gives me a leg up. I think it's a zero sum at the end of the day.
Okay, my last question about the millage. Do you think it was a smart thing to combine your operational expenses, and we have tried to make that clear in our reporting, doesn't always get through to everyone, so we'll just keep reemphasizing it because we do want to be fair, that your operational expenses are included in this millage in addition to improvements that you want to make to the jails, including construction and other improvements.
Sure. Is it ideal? No. I don't like it. But these are the cards that are dealt to me, and this is the hand I got to play. We were losing that money with the last millage, and this is how this whole, like I said to you before, this is how this whole conversation started. And frankly, that's kind of where it leaves off. Yeah, we're going to lose between 1.3 and 1.5 million dollars out of our budget as a result of operation costs. Now, it's important to understand too that it's not our full operations costs. It was the operation costs that we had for Channer Road. So it doesn't take away all of our operating. It just takes away a significant portion of it. So is that ideal? No, it's not. But unfortunately, that's the hand I was dealt, and that's what I've got to play with, and so that's why we have it added in there.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate you answering all my questions.
Sure, absolutely.